Hello everybody, hope you are all well in year 4. So today we are going to look at tenths as decimals. So we have actually looked at this a little bit back in the spring term, so hopefully some of this will be familiar. And if it's not, don't worry, we'll go back over it again. So just thinking about our place value chart, because that is really the basis for all of our work with fractions and decimals. And remember, fractions and decimals are completely interlinked. They're all a way of writing the same thing, really. So I think sometimes we tend to compartmentalize sections of maths. At least I know I certainly did when I was learning it. And I think we need to just think of it all as it's all interlinked, all woven together. Right, so again, place value chart, we can see here is the decimal point. That's really, really important. Really important. So over this, from the decimal point, we've got all our whole numbers, our ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. This is going up to tens of thousands. And then, of course, to the right over this side, after the decimal point, then we've got part of a whole number, tenths, hundredths, thousands. Okay, so that's the first thing to remember when we're dealing with decimals or place value grid. Right, so let's have a little look at this first fraction. So how would you write 8 hundredths as a decimal number? Okay, so we can put a 0 here with the ones if we want to. Okay, and then we have no tenths, so 0, and then we have 8 hundredths, so we write it 0.08, and that is how we would write 8 hundredths. I want you to think for a minute, how would you write 7 hundredths? How would you write 7, let me write it here, hundredths as a decimal? You can pause and do that. Hopefully you have recognized that it would be 0.07. How would you write 4 hundredths as a decimal? 4 hundredths. You can pause the video and just have a little go at doing that now. And hopefully you now have also recognized that 4 hundredths would be 0.04. Okay, 4 hundredths. Super duper. Right. Okay. Now, how would you write 10 hundredths as a decimal? So we've looked at some fractions that have just had a single digit on top of that fraction. Now we've got a double digit, 10 hundredths. So I want you to think how you would write that. You can pause and take a look. Well, 10 hundredths would be written as 0.10. That is 10. That's the same as or equivalent to 10 hundredths is written like this. And also, if we look here, there is 100 square down here, just to give you a visual representation. And outlined are 10 hundredths. 10 hundredths. So 10 hundredths are equivalent to 1/10. it's the same thing. It's the same as. So if 10 over 100 was simplified down, so if I divided 10 over 100 by 10, I would get 1/10. And 10 hundredths is the same or equivalent to 1/10. Okay, let's look at another. How would you write 30 over 100 as a decimal? Thinking what 10 over 100 looked like, I want you to have a think about this, and it will be equivalent to something. So pause the video and have a go. Hopefully now you have recognized that 30 hundredths would be written as 0.30. You can put the 0 in here by the ones as a placeholder if you want also. And that is equivalent to 3/10. So 30 hundredths is equivalent to, if I say I want 30 hundredths of the cake, it's the same as saying I want 3/10 of the cake. All right? Okay. And we've looked at this together in the previous slide, and here is just a graphic as well to help you. So here is 100 square, and shaded in purple I've got 30 hundredths, and if you see, I can just group 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups of a total of 10 groups. So that's why 30 hundredths is the same as 3/10. This is 1/10 here. This is another 10th shaded in purple here, and here's another 10th. It's trying to make you make that connection. Okay, let's look at the next slide. Right, use the part-whole model to partition 38 hundredths into tenths and hundredths. So hopefully now you can divide that up, thinking about what we've done in the last few slides. And we can see here 38 hundredths, I've actually got 3/10 and 8 hundredths. Okay, if I'm dividing it into tenths and hundredths, so I'm partitioning it up into tenths and hundredths. Okay, let's have a look at the next slide. Use the image to complete the fraction and decimal. Okay, so first of all, how many parts all together have I got in this shape? Well, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right. How many parts are shaded in green? Pause and have a look at that. Write that down. And then, how would we write that as a decimal? Hopefully you've recognized that 6 out of 10 parts are shaded. And I know how to write 6/10 as a decimal. It would be 0.6. And hopefully if I said to you, well, what is 6/10? how else could you write that as a fraction? Hoping some of you are thinking, well, I know 6/10 is the same as 60 hundredths. Fab. Okie doke. There we are. We looked at that in the previous slide. Let's have a look at the next one. Right. Now, 1.4 is the same as 12/10. So this is an improper fraction, 12/10. Okay, so let's write that. So is that the case? Is 1.4 the same as 12/10? I want you to pause and think about that. I want you to think, key question, how many tenths would there be in the one whole? You know that, I think. Okay, so it's false. 1.4 is not the same as 12/10. It is the same as 14/10 because here in my one whole, first of all, I've got 10 tenths. 10 tenths in my one whole, plus over here, sorry about my writing, I've got 4/10 here, and I know 10 plus 4 is 14, so I've got 14/10. Okay. Right, match the fractions to the decimals. So look carefully. Can you pause the video and see if you can match these up? Okay, hopefully you've recognized that 1/10 would be written as 0.1, that 4/10 would be written as 0.4, whoops, and that 6/10 would be written as 0.6. Fantastic. Okie doke. Now, Hasma is using 100 squares to represent 19/10. Is she correct? Now, think carefully about this and thinking about the 100 squares we looked at with the purple earlier on. I want you to have a look and see how many tenths are shaded, and do you think it's correct that she has represented 19/10? So one whole would be 10/10. So has she represented 19/10? And can you explain your answer? Right. So let's have a look. She is incorrect because here we can see in that whole square there, well, that whole square is the same as 10/10. Okay, each of these would be a tenth. Okay, it's not great because it's very scrolly with the mouse, but there's 10/10. And let's count how many we've got here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in fact, she has shaded or is showing 17/10, not 19. She would need to have shaded in 2 more whole columns in blue. Okay. Katrina and Joseph are representing 9/10. Katrina says 9/10 is 9 over 10. Okay. And Joseph says, well, 9/10 is 0.9. Who is correct? And can you explain your answer? Okay, they are in fact, and I hope you recognize, they're both correct because 9/10 as a fraction is written like this, and as a decimal is written 0.9. Okay, so Catherine, thinking of a number, it comes between 3/10, 10/10. The 10th is an odd number. She's going to write down 3 possibilities that Catherine's number could be using decimals. All right, so think really carefully about that, and hopefully you've recognized the 3 possibilities would be 5/10. So that would be 0.5. 7/10 as a decimal, sorry, got the writing, would be 0.7, and then lastly 9/10 as a decimal would be 0.9. Okay, everybody, good luck with your work today, and please do email us through with any questions or queries you might have. All right then, bye, good luck.